So, Madam President, let's start with the most breaking news. Constitutional Court just refused to hear your case regarding 26 October parliamentary elections. You just made your comment for Georgian people, maybe say also for Latvian people. What's your comment on this?
Well, the comment is that it was the last chance for the Constitutional Court to play its role, and especially for the individual judges to be at the height where they should be as a judge, because they had in their hands the possibility to bring this crisis back into constitutional and political framework, out of the streets, and to try then to find a solution. Because if they had accepted the plea and recognized that the elections were not constitutionally, then we would go back to the old parliament, to the status quo ante the elections. So it was the best formula to then try to work out when the new elections would take place and prepare for them without any void of... now this possibility is not there. The way in which the Constitutional Court took its decision, both the content and the form of its decision, is again without any standing in terms of constitutional law or simply law. And so we are left in a situation in which the ruling party and the ruling man at the top of the ruling party are behaving without any constitutional limits. They are not respecting any of the elementary freedoms, expression, manifestation, and human rights, the way the repression now is calibrated every day more, and without any limits practically to the use of going to personal homes of the people after the end of the demonstrations. So all of that shows that the country is no longer, we are not protected by the Constitution or by any rule of law. And I remain as the only legitimate constitutional institution, together with the other constitutional legitimate, which is the people, because everything comes from their will, and their will is that they do not accept the decision taken by a prime minister that was not legitimate, was not, the government and the parliament were not elected properly, and it doesn't have the mandate to take the country away from its European path towards a Russian path. That mandate nobody has given him, and the Constitution is very clear on where Georgia is heading to, and gives to all the institutions of the country the obligation to work and to do everything possible to get towards the European integration. So not only is not respecting in general the Constitution, but going against the letter and the spirit of the Constitution.
So now if this, as you say, formula to reach new elections is lost, this possibility is lost?
No.
The
The possibility to go back to the previous parliament and let that previous parliament organize the elections, that is lost. But the new elections is not lost. We are going to go, that is the main demand of the people on the street. Pressure from outside, pressure from inside. These people on the streets are not going to stop. They do not depend on anyone. They're not organized by political parties. They're not organized from outside, despite what the ruling party is trying to portray in good Russian-type propaganda. It's all the foreign powers that are organizing. No, it's the Georgian people that are on the streets, and nobody is going to be able to stop them unless they can express, and their demands are very clear. Give me back my vote, give me back my European future, and let me have new elections. And that's what we have to satisfy.
You mentioned also international pressure
Yeah.
from outside. As you know, Baltic countries already imposed sanctions against several officials, including Bidzina Ivanishvili. Still, it doesn't seem that it influences much of your government.
Well,
what should follow? What other steps?
Well, there are many things happening. Of course, they are now completely turned in and they are not reacting to anything, and they try to show that they're very strong and very determined. But meanwhile, there is underneath the administration, people are either leaving or signing petitions. People from the different institutions of government. So that's really the basis for their power. They cannot be just alone. So there is pressure from outside, pressure from the street, and the pressure that comes from the structures of the state that are deleting themselves. And you can add to that the economic and financial pressure that is going to come very soon. And why is it that the big business, the big banks in Georgia are all dissenting from the official course that was announced by the Prime Minister? Because they know that they cannot work in an environment that will be one where their links with our European and Western partners will not be there, where the market will not be as accessible. So they're losing all the support. There is no real power that can last long without the support of the people, without the support of the institutions, without the support of your segments of the society, the diverse ones. So,
do you expect other countries to follow example of Baltic countries regarding sanctions?
I think so. First of all, the United States probably will come to a decision. Then in the European Union, I know that they are thinking on different levels, so probably that will be maybe not exactly the same sanctions as the Baltic countries. I know there is also a meeting of Baltic and Sweden, Finland, and I think Poland, if I'm not mistaken, in the coming days. There are many things that are happening. The new commission is in place, is determined to be very attentive to what's happening in Georgia and to take measures. I've talked to Mrs. von der Leyen today. So I'm optimistic that things are going to move among our partners, but where they are moving faster even, it's within Georgia.
So let's move back to Georgia. December 14 elections are coming, presidential elections, and government is planning to replace you with their own candidate. What will happen on December 13
Nothing.
And after that?
Nothing. I mean, the parliament is not legitimate, the government is not legitimate. The president, who this time is elected by the parliament, enlarged by the parliament, will not be legitimate. It would be different if he were elected by the people. Then the constitution says that my mandate finishes when the elected president is inaugurated. So if he were legitimate, then clearly my mandate would finish. Since he is not, and there has to be one legitimate institution in this country to assume the continuity of the state and to be the representative of the state. So I'm staying on. Whether they inaugurate or don't inaugurate it will not change anything to the fact that I am recognized by the population and I have the duty to continue to try to defend whatever is left of the Constitution, and more than that even, to defend the will of the people and our European course.
Won't it lead to some attempts to remove you from post, like with violence, with using state power?
Let's not get into scenarios. There is nobody that can say what will happen, but anyway, you cannot remove what is the trust and the confidence of the people.
Do you feel support from Western leaders at the moment?
Yes. I've been talking to many of them, so as much as I can. And
also, Lithuania has expressed, our neighbors, that they are ready to offer you political asylum. Will
I don't need political asylum. My political asylum is among my people, and I'm more interested by a visit of our friendly countries' leaders here as a sign of support. That is the type of support I need, is for them to come and to stand with me and with the people of Georgia on their European path.
We arrived in Georgia this time only yesterday, but we had a chance to visit last night, protests and see it. I want to ask maybe a bit personal question. Emotionally, as a leader of the state, leader of the people, how do you feel when you see your people fighting among themselves? I mean, police and protesters.
No.
People.
That's not people fighting among themselves. That's a wrong definition. That is the people fighting for its own right, for its future, and on the other side there is a repression apparatus. The police is not taking part much. They are used to start, but they are not the repression apparatus. It is the, that OMON type forces that do not represent the people. So it's not two sides of the people that are fighting together. That's a wrong definition.
Still, many experts warn about the possibility of a civil war.
No, that's again the Russian propaganda, which is also used by the party, the ruling party, trying to project that as two Georgias that would be fighting together. No, Georgia, 80% is still in favor of Europe, and the very good testimony to that is the fact that even the ruling party, even after what decision the Prime Minister announced to turn, even after that, he has to say in 2028 or 2030 or whatever, we will get into Europe. Why? Because even in their supporters, the smaller group, which is smaller and smaller every day, even in that group, people do not want to go to Russia. They want to go to Europe. They all have their money, their apartments, their vacation in Europe, and they have no wish to go to Moscow or to whatever city. So it's something that will appear very clearly. And now there are also talks about people from the party itself, from the ruling party, leaving, and that will be another step into this dilution of the power.
So you see,
and that's the most peaceful way that we can hope for.
Yeah, so you see already some signals for potential victory.
I'm confident that these people will continue the fight that Georgia started so many decades or centuries ago for its freedom, its independence, and its Europeanity, and there is nothing that can derail them from that. The important thing is that this happens as peacefully as possible. That's why I'm so criticizing and protesting this repression apparatus that they're using against their own people.
And this leads us to our last question. As you probably know, Ministry of Foreign Affairs today summoned the Baltic ambassadors and expressed their concerns about those sanctions we talked about earlier, also about some comments from Baltic officials regarding situation in Georgia. So Ministry of Foreign Affairs said what they think about what Baltics are doing. Maybe you have also something to add and say for Baltic people, people supporting you.
I have to say thank you to the Baltic people, because that's the strongest support that Georgia has had for many years, not just now, but especially now, but also for all the past period in which Georgia was progressing in its European integration path. And I also want to say that when the Ministry of Foreign Affairs summons the ambassador, it's half of the ministry, because already half of the ministry has signed petitions to say that they do not support the statement and the policy that the Prime Minister has announced, and that they remain on their European path. So you can count on the fact that half of the ministry is certainly continuing to consider the Baltic states as the best friends of Georgia.
Thank you very much, Marlaba, for your conversation.
Thank you.